You can ask questions that result in either closed-ended or standard answers when it comes to IFA divination, any form of IFA divination, as I mentioned before, any of the IFA readings, right? So IFA divination, I'm referring to EDAFA when I say that, but any type of IFA reading, you want to ask questions that are going to result in a closed-ended answer or a standard answer. Standard being based on the tradition itself. Intuitive information, again and again and again, let me say this, is not provided through IFA readings. Some people come and, they want to know, again, their whole life story, and they want to know, who are my enemies, who am I going to get married to, and things like that. That is not information that's going to come out in IFA divination. Other readings may provide you with that information, and if that's what you need to go to a reader who can provide that type of information. That is not what EDAFA is about, okay? Okay, closed-ended question. These are just some examples, like something like, will becoming a doctor, a singer, an engineer, lawyer, what have you, be a prosperous career path for me? So you can ask questions like that. Those are direct questions. You're presenting the paths that you're considering taking versus saying, what is the career path that I should take, right? Another example, should I marry John Doe? You insert the person's name in there that you're considering marrying or considering being with long term, or the persons, because sometimes that happens too. Sometimes people are dealing with maybe 2 or 3 people, and they're trying to figure out, well, which relationship should I pursue at this time that's going to lead to a more serious or better outcome for me. And then, or another example rather would be, is my grandmother Jane Doe, again, insert your grandmother's name in there, well situated in the astral realm, right? So we're asking really direct questions. We're putting in names of specific individuals so that we can get the information out, whether it's positive or negative. Some examples of like the standard questions that you can ask. It's like, who is my head Orisha? You can ask that in IFA divination, and you can get that. I don't know what this thing is where people are telling individuals that you cannot get your head Orisha until you initiate. That is not true. That's not part of the IFA tradition, Isheshe out of Nigeria. I have my guesses as to why it's being done, but you can get that as part of a regular IFA reading. Okay. What egg class do I belong to? Same thing there. Even so, what orishas, are closest to me? Which ones resonate or vibe really closely with me? In addition to like your head orisha, or head orisha is the one that vibes the most with you, but you also have other orishas. You can have other orishas that are also really, really closely connected to your journey as well. You're saying if a reading indicates an orisha's presence and not initiated, could that be my head orisha? So your head orisha is always going to be the orisha that resonates most closely with you. And I think I was just answering the question that you're asking right now. So everybody has a head orisha, absolutely. That's the one that vibes most closely with them. But you could have another orisha or several other orisha that are really, really closely connected to you. They're not considered your head orisha in the same way as that primary energy is, but they can really be close to you. To find out your head orisha, you need to ask that direct question to get that information. You can never assume just because somebody says, this orisha is close to you. If they didn't say that this is your head orisha and you think it is, you can ask them, like, do you mean this is actually my head orisha, right? So IFA is not going to typically provide you with specific detail, right? So questions like, what career path should I take, is not normally going to be the best question to ask. Now, there's a caveat to this particular question, because sometimes certain Odu can come out in your reading that can actually reveal what career paths are best for you. However, it doesn't come out for everybody. So 2 people can ask that same question. In one case, a person may be told, well, what career paths are you thinking about? So then we can do like a check-in to see which are positive and which are showing negative for you. Whereas another person may be able to ask it, and the do that is pool may reveal that information. Even so, you may not even ask that question, and an do may come out to say, like, these are some good career paths for you based on whatever is going on in the reading at that particular time. So that's a bit of a caveat there. It's not that you can't ask it, but it's better to insert said career paths that you're thinking about going into in general for that. Who am I going to marry? Like, no, it's never going to come out and say you should marry this person by name, right? You want to present the name of the person or persons that you're thinking about marrying. And then if I can say this shows positive or this shows negative, right? Same thing. What ancestors are walking with me? We get this question a lot with the ancestor readings. We can't pull that type of information out again in an IFA reading, right? Even if you're like doing like a tarot reading or intuitive type of reading or something like that, generally they're not going to pull the person's name. They may pull like an energy and say you have a great, great grandmother, and they may describe that particular force for you if that person can see spiritual forces and commune with spiritual forces in that way. But it is not always going to be the case that it's going to go down like that. But in IFA divination, in particular, in investigation, ancestry, any of those things, you want to present the exact names of the people that you're asking about, okay? Who are my enemies? I said that before, right? So if you have specific people in mind, you can ask that type of question. And even with that, I'm going to say this because sometimes people do like to ask, who are my enemies? Or they want to ask if this person against me, so forth and so on. If you're doing a proper ritual work and you have just enemies in general, that sacrifice is going to deal with those people. So it could be that you do the sacrifice and they are just removed from your path. Those people are taken out of your life, or they are rendered ineffective to do you any type of harm. So it could be a situation where your enemies are like coworkers or something like that, and you're still around these people. You can't just, not be around them anymore. But whatever works or whatever things that they do against you is not going to be effective once you engage in the proper ritual work. Okay.